This is corresponding to your AD login. So this is your Active Directory that you got, and that is the same user that you're using and granting access to in the application itself. You have an option of configuring the application itself where you can set it up to reuse your Windows credentials, and that way if you choose that options, then you wouldn't have to enter your password again. You just go ahead and log in here. That's not how we got it configured, so I need to log in here. Okay, as soon as this logs in here, you will see the application itself. And I wanted to start by talking about just the general functions and features of our framework. And you will hear us sometimes refer to the framework, and that is the enabling pieces of software that our different modules leverage. So this, and we'll take a look at some of the examples here, but it is really its own component when you look at it from an application perspective. And it will give you a wide range of functions and features that will look the same when you access different modules in here. And by modules, I mean, you know, the HPOS module or rental module or module. So in here, when you take a look at it, you will see there's some aspects in here. You will see who's down here in your lower left corner, you'll see the actual user that's logged in. By the way, can you guys see my cursor?
Yeah.
Okay, so down here you can see it's Tobias Norgren that's logged in. And you will see here to your right, you will see what actual environment that you're logged into and what language you're running. And then there's a notification bar here. If you're using those, you'll see that you can get notifications in here as well. This is your navigator over here. And this is set up right now with 4 different categories. So you have your favorite, you have the gear, which is a bit of a system settings. You have the chart that shows you just completely everything that's in the application. And then you got a limited profile for the actual user in here. Right now, when you look at this chart in here, this one contains all the modules that we currently support within Cenium. When you guys will be looking at your application, that will be limited to the modules that you guys have purchased. So you're not going to see all of these modules in your system when you're looking at it. And this just, of course, because this is our reference environment. So we got everything in here for that purpose. You can use this little search bar here to kind of like you guys are familiar with nav. So same thing. You just start typing the name of the window in here, and it will give you the windows that are corresponding to whatever search criteria you entered in there. And you can, of course, jump directly into those. Okay. Up here, you have the basic settings of the application. You have a set property. This one here, again, this being our reference environment, has a lot of different properties in here. We would expect that at least the Crystal Mountain is just going to be one property. And I don't know, as of right now, I don't think you have any additional properties, but in the future you might have. And then, of course, you can all work in the same system. We've set up your Crystal Mountain, your sample site in here. So that is what I'm using here. And I've selected that to be the site that I want this user Tobias to be using in here. I could, of course, have selected all properties. It's just going to make it a little bit wider when you look at some of the windows. But if I just choose one, property here, then of course it's going to limit the data set to that one property. You can set a different language. Right now, I think we only support English actually, but for the future, we will possibly provide additional languages in here that the application will support. You can, of course, log out, and then you have a open network monitor, and I'll get back to you on this network monitor thing here. And then the about here will tell you each individual component of the application here, what version you're actually running in there. When you look up here and you have the home and the view banner, so this is actually going to show you different, and I'll bring up a example here. And for some reason so I'll bring up master contact here. And you'll see up here that your home button actually changes, and it will change dynamically depending on what window it is that you're opening. So this banner up here will look different when you use different windows. So a couple of things, and what I wanted to talk about here today is not the master contact window itself. I want to show you guys the functions that are across all of our windows and how it actually behaves. Mike will actually take you guys through the detailed presentation of the contact setup and handling a little bit later in the week here. You can see and you can tell that the application is, there's a lot of information in here. And that is the reason that we recommend the screen resolution of full HD to 1080p. Because if you got less resolution than that, then some of these windows are going to look kind of weird because it's going to squeeze things in. Now you can see up here is that some of these buttons are actually changing dynamically. So depending on the size of your screen itself. So you see clipboard here, you got the little arrow pointing down. So that just means that you have a sub menu into that one. But if this banner bar wasn't that big, then it would have shown those that sub menu items in the banner directly. So it looked like kind of like the edit function here and not showing the actual little sub menu in there. In order for you to get a little bit more room here, you can collapse the navigation here so that it doesn't take up an unnecessary space in there. And of course, you got your normal Windows function here, just a clipboard, cut, copy, paste. Is of course, it's going to just work as normal, so you'd expect it to do. In here, you will see the page functions. So the save as is of course an important one once you've changed some of your data in here. That one will not, and you can tell right now that there's no data that has been changed because this is grayed out. But if I were to change some of the data here and maybe add then you see that this one now becomes active again, and then I could save the record in here and the data will of course then be saved. Then you have the refresh, what I did just now, right? I just refreshed the records and I didn't hit save. So of course the 4 that I added on there to the address itself was never saved into the database. And you will see too that if you make changes, there will actually be a little pen next to the record itself. So if I were to change this guy up here, you see the little pen that appeared here? And I can go to the next one here, and I can go and I'll change this record as well. And the one, now you can see that you got 2 records that are unsaved.
Okay.
I can refresh without saving. Of course, we won't save the records. The clear button here will just clear the pre-populated data. So it won't remove anything from the database itself, but it will just clear the record and the window itself. You have an edit function, editor function here, and that is when you're using some of the bigger fields here, like the organization number, maybe you want to have a bigger window to write in, because once you get to the end, of course, the information is going to be kind of obscured, and it's going to populate over to your left, and you can't see the whole thing. Then you can go into your edit mode here, and then it'll be able to show you the full text of that field. I won't save that. Okay, and then you got these zoom functions. So there's two ways to get to the zoom function. One is you can see how it got active up here. So in this case, this one is actually pointing towards a housekeeping template, which is a different window. So I can either choose to do the zoom here from the banner bar, or I can do the little information mark here, and I can actually go to open it or open it in a new window if I so choose. And that will open up that basic data setting in a new window. Okay. The edit mode up here will give you add, duplicate, and delete functions. So this will be for adding a new contact. And this would be for adding or duplicating the current contact and creating a new from that. And that is, of course, then just to delete the contact itself. Then you have, and those are, the standard functions that you will find in any of our windows, of course. And the same is going to be true for this view option here. So the view option here will show you a current view. And this one will depend a little bit of the type of window that you're looking at. This window that we're looking at here has a lot of information and sub and child records in there. So this one has a set of different options that you can view this information. And you can see up here that you have a grid on top and then details at the bottom. So this one shows you and changes the information here on the, as you're selecting your record in the grid level, change the detail level down here. You could also choose to do just the detailed, and then that way you just remove the grid level of it, and you can choose just to look at it from a grid level and not wanting to see the actual details of it. You have in here, you got the navigator. This one will actually show you, so right now it's minimized. I can turn it off, and it's this navigator to your left here. So this is the normal, and of course this minimized, and then you can turn it completely off as well. We can do options in here, and these are the, right now we got it in compact mode, and this is actually describing the section down here. So right now we got 5 visible groups, so you can make that bigger or smaller depending on how you want to view that thing. And you can go ahead and you can customize this navigator as well. And you can choose whatever folders or windows you want in here. So if I want master contact, I'll add that in there. And then I'll add item, which I know we're going to be using a little bit later. I'll add that in there. And you can just keep on going and customize this as much as you want. Go OK. And if I show this, and if I go to my favorites now, you'll see that those items have been added into the navigator itself. And here's another pretty cool thing, is that you can add a quick access feature. So if I do I can assign specific buttons in here, and it will actually open up the page that you've selected here. So in this case, I got the HPOS opening up if I'm doing the Alt-1. So if I do just the Alt-1, it will open up a new window and it will open up with the HPOS. You also have in certain windows, like this busy window here, you will have a side pane here, which is some additional information that are relevant to the data that you're looking at in your main window. So in this case here, you can see on the contact, you have some history on it. You got, the latest orders for this contact. You can take a look at those. You got, if you have rewards program, you have that in there, and you got last activities and last rentals. So some useful information that we think makes sense for you to actually view there. But again, this takes up some space in the window itself, and you have the option here of actually turning off that one and give you a little bit more real estate for just if you're doing data entry and not necessarily looking at the data from that perspective. And then in here you have also a open a new window, which will allow you to open up the same window itself, but just open up another window to do it as well. This guy here is change tracking, and we'll get back to some of the details of that. And you can take a look at the change tracking on the actual record that you're looking at right now, or you can take a look at all the changes that have been made in this, no, I don't want to call it a window, but in this table. So if I take a look at this change tracking in here, for this contact, I have not had any updates, so I don't have any changes in there. But if I take a look at the all in here, you'll see that, I changed a master contact here was changed on the 18th. And that would be, I guess, Friday. Which guest was actually referenced, changed, and what was the actual user that made that change. One other thing in here, when you have these type of lists here, what you can do is you can change the order of these by just dragging and dropping. So if you want to see these in a different order, you can just drag and drop these fields however you want to show them. And you can also do a sorting by just pressing the field itself. So in here, if I do display name, then it sorts it in display name and not in the contact number, which is the default one. And of course, pressing it twice will do the ascend or the descend. So what I wanted to show you guys now is some of the attachment here. So this section is also across all of our different modules, and you can reuse them. For one, you can add notes in here. So you can start by adding notes. So these are additional notes, and you can, of course, configure. I did not plan on going into an actual training session of notes right now. We can definitely follow up with a session for notes, tasks, and documents later on. I just want to show you the function that they actually do work across the board right now. So you set it up here with a note type, you associate that, and then of course you can start typing whatever notes you want in here. Validity dates here, you can send it to users, and there's a whole bunch of actions you can do in here with these notes. And those notes will be linked, in this case here, to this specific contact. The same with links. So you could do, if Charles here works for CNN, then of course you could just link in a specific web page here if you wanted to, or if these are specific files that you have. Same with documents here, you can import. So I was thinking about this just briefly before, where you could possibly scan your founder's documentations and attach those to the master contact so that you have it as a reference in there. So if you pull up that contact, you will be able to pull up any associated document with that contact itself. And you have tasks where you can add tasks in here. In this case, I've added just a task of verify the photo, and then I've set that up to and assign that to a specific user. And once that task is completed, then of course it'll be set and marked as completed. Okay. Then I want to show you guys a little bit of the filtering here. So a couple of different ways. There's this filter button here that's kind of in the banner section. This will do a search across a free text search across all the records that you have there and all the fields that you got in the database. So if I were to search for, a phone number 999, then it's going to take a look at all the different fields that you have in the database and see, okay, whatever matching 999. And in this case, the first one was a phone number. The second, also a phone number. Third, fourth. My point is that it doesn't necessarily have to be phone number. So whatever number you have that matches 99, if that's address or if it's phone number or email, then it is going to pull up all of that. In this case, you got Robert. He lives actually on James Martin Circle. So you're going to get a hit on that when you do the actual name itself here, being James. You also have, when you do the little banner filter up here, you also got these types, and depending on how the program actually set up this window, this is going to let you do a multi-select if you wanted to. So I just want to see guests that are named James. And this one can be a multi-select. So you could say, I want to see companies and guests. Or clear it and just do company. And there's no companies with any text that's getting a hit on the name James. So that is one way that you do the quick filtering. Then you have this option of doing set filter, which is slightly different. In here, you do an advanced filter. This advanced filter here gives you an opportunity to use and do a little bit more advanced queries, of course. So I will want to show you guys a filter that I set up here before. So let me show it here. I've done a query that just says guests younger than 21. And in here, I've said, okay, I want to see the type. It needs to be equal to, and then again, you got this list of values here to pick from. I want guests, and I want to say, and I did say date of birth is going to be greater than, and then I'm doing a relative date. So I'm taking today's date, and then I am reducing the, the number of days in here. Now, it's not 100% accurate, as you can tell, because I'm doing today's date minus 6,570 days. But then, of course, I haven't accounted for leap years. So it's not 100% and accurate to the day of, being 21. But when you hover over this column here, it's pretty cool because it shows you actually what the value is currently. So this query will bring you anyone that is greater than 525 the year 2000. Then, of course, you can save these queries. And then, as you saw that I did here, they're going to become available here in your set filter. And then you can pick any one of those at any point in time without having to go into advanced queries at all. So this query here just returned 4 different values, and it'd be these 4. Another feature that you have in all of our windows is this export to Excel function. So in this case, once you've done your query, or that I did in this case, the query itself, if I want to manipulate or I want to do some additional data analysis of this, and I don't want to do it in the application, I can export this data out to Excel, and this will, of course, export it out and then open up Excel for you. You need to pay attention to this number up here. This one is default set to 5,000. So if you got more than 5,000 records, you need to change that in there or you're not going to get everything. In this case, I mean, I only got 4 records, so I should be getting everything. You can also go in here and you can choose which fields it is that you actually wanted to export out if you don't want to export out everything. And then if you want to start Excel after the export or not. So in this case, I wanted to start it and just export it out. And here's how you get all the information in there from the actual window itself. And then you can, of course, keep manipulating the data with your normal Excel functions and features. One other thing that I wanted to show you guys in here is this page properties. Now, when you look at this here, you have a page URL and you get a selected URL and a filter. So these give you a different type of data here. The first one just opens up the page itself. And then the second one opens up the page itself, but it also pre-populates it with that specific contact itself. And then the bottom one actually executes the query that I got currently running in this window. Now, and why this makes sense and what you need this or what you can use this for is, for instance, if you wanted to embed that in your SOP study. So what I've done here is that I've created a just a Word document, and I've created a sample here using those links in there. What I can do is I can now open up this application with those queries pre-selected in there. So the first link I got in here is just to open up the that window itself. And let me show you that. I'll do this guy. I get a normal security warning. And since I got the application open, it suggests that default. You can preset this one where it's not going to open up for you. But if you don't have an application open, you need to, at the very least, log into the application before it's going to start showing you anything. So I'll just keep using my application in here. So in here, you can see that it opened up the item itself here, and it pre-populated the whole list itself. So this would be the normal window when you come into the application and you just open it up. If I do the second one here, I've said, okay, I want to open up the item window, but I want this to pre-populate with a specific item. And in this case, I've picked the adult anytime pass. So in your SOP, if you wanted to link into a specific product, and that way they wouldn't have to go in and search for the product itself, you can just link it right in. And in this case, it opens up the same window, but in this case, it's just pulled in the anytime pass itself. And the third one, then I wanted to say, okay, I want to open up the item window and I want to execute a search and I want it to show me all the items that contains the name gondola. So again, same thing, just opens up and it will open up the item window itself. And in this case, you see it just shows me all the items that I got that are got the name gondola in. That was the general. Oh, sorry. Just one other thing. So you see those sub banners in here. So this will allow you to actually hide additional data that you're not using. So if you're not interested in any of this data, then of course you can start collapsing it and you don't need to look at it every time. And that way the whole window itself is a little bit more clean. So there's a there's a framework feature where we do have an import from Excel. It's not implemented in all modules or all windows at this point. So this is something that each individual team that we have are looking at, and they're implementing that as our roadmap gets future releases. So right now, and let me show you how that would work. If we look at in here under application management address setup. So in here under cities, there's an additional tab here for data. And this one actually allows you to import cities in here as well. So in this case, let me show you. Import cities. Where did I put that? Just give me 1 second here and I will. I guess I need to create a new Excel file in here. So let me do that. So I'll do here, I'll call it city. I'll call it zip. And I'll call it state. And then I'll put in Marietta 3008. And then state Georgia. And I will do this one as a, and then I'll do save. I'll save it to the desktop and I'll say cities import. So opening up the application now, I can go ahead and I can do, and let me show you Marietta in here. We have of course and you can see that I've been testing this before, and you can tell by, I'm just using different capital or lowercase letters in here. So in this case, you got Marietta with an M-A, Marietta. And what I wanted to do now is just go ahead and show you guys how to import this thing. I'll do import cities. I am going to pick an Excel spreadsheet. I'll do the desktop where I put my actual cities. Oh, I guess I need to close it. So do browse, cities, open. And then I need to match the different columns. So it'll take a look at my columns in there on the zip, and I will also map the state in there. And then import to United States, and I want to overwrite. And I'll go import. I'll import it, and it'll tell me that it found an updated one. And then I didn't do duplicates, so it didn't find any duplicates. So now you can see that Marietta in there. It's the Marietta with a capital A at the end of it instead. I wanted to dive into just this favorites here for a second now, and I want to show you guys the dashboards and how you would use those. One thing is here is my settings, is that you can decide what you want the user to see the first time they log into the application. So you can set up, and I will set up my dashboard. So I will set up my dashboard. That's the first thing I want to see when I log in. And you have a drop down here of actually the different dashboards you have available to you. And I want to, of course, pick the example that I've done for you guys in here. I'll go ahead and save that. I'll log out of the application, or I'll close the application now and re-log back in so I can show you guys what it'll look like. Sorry, that was not the right window. So I'll open up the application, and it'll pre-populate the application with that start window that I choose, and it'll open up the actual dashboard itself for that I selected. And again, need my password. I'll log in, and then it'll open up the actual dashboard itself. Okay, so here is the dashboard. As you can tell, I've been configuring this to set up, a couple of web pages, and I've of course gotten this from your web page itself, and just the web camera in there to show you one of those as well. This is completely configurable by you guys, and you can start adding additional widgets and counters in here. And you do that by just adding in here. And you have a whole bunch of different, you got charts, and that's the one you see down here for HPOS orders. You got conferences. If you're running our sales and catering module, then you can do some focus views on the actual dates for conferences. You have tile counters, and these are the blue and these tiles here that will show you different values, counts, or currencies in there. It allows you to start or actually create reports. So up here, you can see I got set up a waiver acceptance report. You can do some HTML coding if you want, and allow you to set up those little widgets as well. It'll show you your printer queue, so those are items that you've printed, and it'll also show reports that are created or assigned to yourself. Tasks is if you want to or need to create a new task. You'll see notes in there, and again, you got some additional focus views for our sales and catering modules. You can show open tasks, and you can show different team members, and of course the web pages here, which is the one that I use to just link into some of your web pages in there. And then the PMS widget in there as well. Then you can go ahead and you can, of course, move these widgets around on the layout itself. So up here, you see I got a front desk one, I got Tom's, and I got a test. So you can switch between these ones here and, of course, create different views. You can also choose to share these if you want to with specific users and groups. So a pretty cool thing with this is, for instance, if we look at this open tasks. So in this case, I have 2 open tasks, and I wanted to show you how I've configured this one. So in here, you have some controls that you can apply to this widget itself. And this will be open tasks, of course, just naming of it, what property it's pointing to, what the text color is going to be, and the background color is going to be for it. And then here's the counter that you want to pull up. And in this case, I've used the current open tasks, but you see the whole list here of all the different counters that you got and you can pick from the system. You can choose what format you're going to display this in, and I wanted to see this one in whole numbers, so I've chosen the integer. And then you have this expand view page here, and this is a selection where you can take it to any window you want in the application itself. And in this case, I've chosen to take it to the task window, and you can see that you had the query in here. So you can pre-populate this with a query if you wanted to as well. You also have some additional formatting in here. And in this case, what I've said is that if the number value of this one is larger than 3, I want it to display a specific color. So in this case, I'll pick orange. And then if your number of tasks exceeds 3, then this is going to change color into orange. So now you see I got 2 open tasks in here, and I can do a little expand view up here, and this will actually take me to that view itself. And you know, I showed you guys here before this a note, the task that I had assigned to that contact itself. Well, it's assigned to me, so that's why it shows up here. And it says verify the photo. And over here at source, you can see that, okay, here's the actual contact that it's linked to. So I need to go in and I need to verify this photo. I can go in here and I can go ahead and open it in a new window. And I will look at it and I go, it looks kind of funny, but sure, I'll approve that. And then I can go ahead and I will complete this task. So I'm good. I'll save it. Now you can see that the open tasks here has changed. It's refreshing, and I can't remember if it's every 2 minutes automatically here, or you can refresh it in here by yourself. So I got a couple of additional counters down here that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So I have here is the completed HPOS orders. So if I configure this one, what I said here is I wanted to see the number of completed HPOS orders. And I've said if it's below 10, I want it to be orange. And if it's more than 10, I want it to be green. So just a simple formatting in here. And as I am processing HPOS orders and it exceeds 10, then it'll change the color into green. And then I've done the same thing and I've looked at refund orders and I said, okay, if I get more than 10 refund orders, I want this tile here to go red. And in here, I have this chart thing as well. And this one shows you the actual value of the revenue. And you can pick a different chart type in here if you wanted to. You can do it for a specific period. I've picked this week. And then again, you can expand the view in here, but I should say HPOS sales this week. So yesterday I sold for 488 and 50, and today I've sold for 20 and 30. So it just shows you an easy way of getting some sample or BI data up here in the dashboard.